My mother died alone, even though I always assumed I would be at her bedside holding her hand. Instead, I was 400 miles away and one of the last people to know that she had died. It was a Sunday morning, June 7th, 1987. The phone rang. It was my brother, Donald. And I hear, Rich? Rich? Yeah? Mommy died. Those two words. There was silence. And in an instant, inside my head, I saw a video replay of the time I came out of her womb, looking up at her for the first time. And then in sequential order, to the time 1 month before she died, 62 years later, a month before her 63rd birthday, everything came out one step after another. Rich, are you there? How? What happened? Cardiac arrest. They came to get her before they took off her foot. They were going to amputate her foot, you know. And somehow, around 5 o'clock in the morning, they found her lying peacefully, and she was dead. Well, we had to go look for John, and my brother at the time had a Volkswagen. I was married, and my wife and the 3 kids had to be gathered up, loaded up in a small Volkswagen, not the Bug, but the little medium-sized Volkswagen they had at the time. And we found John, and we just made our trip to New York. And 7 of us in the Volkswagen. We had to sit on each other's lap, except the driver. And it was a long trip because we had to stop many times. And I'm angry. The whole time I'm angry at God. He let me down. And as time was passing on, I was getting even angrier. Well, about 12 hours after she had passed, about that time, when I had a chance to be alone, my siblings were consoling my father. He was still crying, grieving. I start talking to God. And I have to tell you something. It's very important before I go into this vision that I had. Because you see, what happened is, I demanded from God, you need to tell me what took place at the moment she passed into eternity. So before I tell you the vision that came just about instantly, so vivid, right before my eyes, kind of like a hologram, I have to tell you about my brother Robert. Donald is the eldest, born in 1946. In 1947, we had a brother Robert, and he was born with Down's syndrome. At the time in 1947, people were very, very superstitious with people with this type of handicap. He also was born with a collapsed lung. The superstitions even ranged, if you look upon a child like this, your child would be, might get Down syndrome. In any case, he had a hard life. It was short. 2 years, my mother went to get him from his crib, and he had pneumonia, and Robert, this little angel, was lying dead. My mother used to pray that God would take him home and be spared the grief and ridicule of a child that had no reason to be born this way. And she knew that every breath he took while he was on earth was painful. So she felt guilty that God answered her prayer. But she loved him very much. And she had a nervous breakdown. She was just about to bear another baby, and she did. So 3 weeks later, my brother John was born, and unfortunately, he could not receive the full scope of love that you would welcome another child into the world. And she was burying Robert. But she knew from the start that Robert would be her guardian angel. My parents, my father and my mother, always told us that when you tell people, about your brothers and your sister, remember Robert. I know you don't know him because he died before you were born, and Donald was too young to remember him. Remember that you have a brother, Robert, who is now in heaven with God, and whatever pain that he had on earth, he will never experience again, because he's with God and the angels and saints in heaven. And we always remembered that. And now the vision. When I asked God to reveal to me what took place at the moment of her death, He was very, very gracious. I saw before my eyes a room, a hospital room with light blue walls, and there was a little bureau, a little nightstand with some flowers on it. And it was a single bed, and my mother was in a pale blue nightgown. Well, there were 2 men that was on the side of the bed, and there was enough room that they were behind for my mother to get up from the bed and talk to them. And she did so. She gets up from the bed with her nice blue nightgown, and I had to tell you something, which is very important. My mother, during her life, had a lot of illnesses, and she had a lot of phobias. She was afraid of everything. And it's like everybody else, she was afraid of the unknown and the pain of death. Pain she was familiar with, but she didn't understand maybe the pain of death, of dying. So she stands up and she looks to her left, and she sees the gentleman that she recognizes very well, and she says, she actually puts her hand on his shoulder and says, Jesus, Jesus, I know who you are, and I've always written letters to you when I've had trials and tribulations. I would write out and send it to you, and I always felt that you read them. And he was smiling. He even nodded. Didn't say much at all. And she said, Jesus, I know what this means. When I see you like this, I know it. And he smiled. And she said, she's a very expressive woman. She held her hands up like this, and she said, will it hurt? I'm afraid, but I'm ready. Will it hurt? And Jesus is compassionate and understanding as he is. He cupped her face and he said, turn around, turn around. That's the only time I heard him talk, turn around. And she turns around, and there, lying on the bed, her face pressed against her hands, she was lying so peacefully. And she said, ooh, that didn't hurt, it happened. And that's what he was doing. From the corner of her eye, she's looking at a nice, young, vibrant gentleman. He was a handsome man. He just was looking at her the whole time. His eyes was welled up with tears. And she said, Jesus, you know, I knew who you were instantly, but who is this fine-looking gentleman that's accompanying you? He's such an angel. He didn't say anything, Jesus. Instead, she looked at the man, and he looked into her eyes, and he said to her, holding his hands up, grabbing her by the face, Mom, Mom, and no word. She said, my God, you're my Robert, you're my Robert, you're my baby Robert. Oh my God, my guardian angel. And then he said, Mom, we gotta go. There's so many people waiting to see you. There's a big party. And she took her right arm with his. She took her left arm with Jesus, right there in the middle. They went towards the wall and right through it. And then I took my finger up to heaven and I said, we're okay now. We're okay.